Hello and welcome to Positive Behaviour Strategies, Session 2. This is a course for all parents of children and young people with additional needs. In Session 1, we spoke about understanding your child's needs. We thought about what their needs might be around communication, how important structure and routine might be to them, and what their sensory issues were. In this session, we're moving on to understanding how those needs impact behaviour, particularly the behaviours that we would like to change. And to start, we're going to look at a model of behaviour. This course uses the bucket model of behaviour. If you've been on other courses, you may have heard people talking about the volcano method or the bottle of fizzy pop model of behaviour. But we've found that the bucket model is useful in helping parents to visualise needs and resulting behaviours. So the concept is that every one of us has got a bucket in our heads, and that bucket is our capacity to manage or hold all the stresses and anxieties and worries of our modern daily lives. Having developmental differences can mean that the bucket is filling up quite quickly, but in fact, people with additional needs often have an amazing capacity in their buckets. Think of all the difficulties that they are dealing with on a daily basis. When the bucket is getting full, we will begin to see challenging or distressed behaviour. So the challenges that your child is facing during their daily lives are the triggers that are constantly filling the buckets up. What we want to try and help you with in this course is to give you some strategies, some techniques that will allow you to make holes in the bottom of the bucket so that it doesn't overflow. Now, when buckets are filling up, holes can sometimes get blocked. All this means is that if you're using a strategy which is working one day, don't think you've cracked it. It might not work the next day, or it might not even work later on the same day. An example of that would be when you've been using certain strategies to keep a younger child calm and content and focused at home during the day, and then his older siblings pour in the door at 3:30 and they're noisy and they get him overexcited and they're demanding your attention. Obviously, you have to start thinking of different strategies for a different situation. So you really need to be adaptable as you can be. It can be quite difficult for us to really understand what is affecting our child when we don't have the same differences as them. We have to work at understanding, and we have to do a lot of observing. There's a drama on Sky Television called The Good Doctor, and it's about an amazing young man with high functioning ASD who's training to be a surgeon in an American hospital. He's normally brilliant and really focused, but in one particular episode, he needs to be at the top of his game because there's a big emergency on, but there is an overhead light not working properly in the hospital, and every time he passes under it, you see him cringe and duck, and he's asking people round about him, why is it doing that? And nobody knows what he's talking about. By the end of the episode, he actually can no longer function. He's actually curled in a ball with his hands over his ears. And what's affecting him is a buzzing that nobody else can hear. For various reasons, children might not be able to tell us themselves when their bucket is getting full. They may have delayed communication or they may have processing difficulties, but also if they've only experienced sound or taste or light in one way, they may believe that everybody else around them experiences them in the same way and not think that they have to mention to us that it's very loud, etc. And they may not be old enough to make holes in the bucket without us helping them. Younger children will certainly need us to put strategies in place, although eventually, as they mature, we will want to pass successful strategies on to children to make them more independent. When not enough holes have been made in the bucket, it may overflow, and this is when we will see meltdowns. There are an infinite number of external triggers for behaviour. These are just some of them. Internal triggers for behaviour. It's even harder, isn't it, for us to see these? And again, your children may find it difficult to tell you what the problem is. Most children will be able to tell you that they've got a toothache or they're hungry or they're bored. But even children with the best speech and language will find it difficult sometimes to convey to you that their self-esteem is at rock bottom because they're always in trouble at school, or they can't seem to do what the rest of the class is able to do, or they just don't know why they have to shout out the answer as soon as it comes into their head rather than putting their hand up as the teacher has asked them to do a million times. So what I'd like you to do is think about what fills up your bucket and then what might be filling up your children's buckets. Can they let you know? If they're non-verbal, do you have some agreed hand signals or emotion cards that they can use? If they're older, do give them plenty of opportunities to talk to you. We all have busy lives, but it's crucial that they have this outlet, otherwise anxiety will just keep building. And are they old enough to recognise the signs themselves, or do they really need you to tell them when it's time to take themselves out of a situation and start to calm down? This is just a basic model of the bucket, full of all the types of worries and anxieties and insecurities which become the triggers for the behaviour, which is then spilling out of the top of the bucket. These are just some of them. To these you could add tearfulness, stimming, which is repetitive behaviours, withdrawing, self-harming, defiance, refusal. Laziness is quite an interesting one. There is a theory that for teenagers with ASD, the effort involved in interacting with their peers and keeping up with what's going on really runs down their batteries. It is exhausting for them. Apparently, this time that they spend alone in their rooms doing nothing at all that we can see is recharging their batteries, and so actually is serving a purpose. So how do you work out what is filling up your child's bucket? The only way to do it is by talking to them and by observing them. So observing behaviour is absolutely crucial, and the first bit of advice that I would give to you is that start keeping a diary. It will be invaluable, especially when you have to go along to meetings with Senkos, with GPs, with paediatricians that you meet on the assessment pathway. If you're asked how often in a month do they have a meltdown, if you're anything like me, you would normally go blank when you're asked a question like that by professionals. But if you've got a diary, you can flick through it and say every one of these asterisks is a meltdown, and it can be really, really useful. It can also help you to see patterns of behaviour that you may not have seen before. If you see that every Tuesday afternoon your child has a meltdown as soon as they come through the school gate, then you can ask the school why that might be. It may be that on a Tuesday afternoon the head teacher goes into the staff room to do some planning and another adult comes into the classroom to teach, and your child either doesn't like the change or doesn't like the adult. It may be with a bit more digging you find out that actually the problem is that they're already worrying about something that's going to happen on Wednesday morning. Maybe PE is on a Wednesday morning and they just don't like that and don't like having to change clothes in front of people, etc. And they may already be worrying about that. Now, observing their behaviour is crucial, and you can do this fairly informally, or you can use a pro forma like a star chart. A star chart is not the kind of star chart which you may think of. It stands for setting, trigger, action and result. And I've got an example. So they can be really helpful and help you to formally sort out what is exactly going on and look for patterns. So when you think about the setting, what time of day is it? Where are they? Who is there? Think of all the things that might be filling the bucket up. Triggers. Was there anything that happened just before? Was there a noise? Were they asked to do something? Were they asked to stop something that they did want to be doing? Again, what was filling the bucket up? Actions. What exactly did they do to let you know that the bucket was getting full? Were there any warning signs? Were they flapping or hand wringing or starting to repeat sentences over and over again? The bucket at this stage really is beginning to overflow. And results, who responded and how? What responses were the most helpful? Did one person get a better response than the others? And did your child actually want help, or did they just want to be alone? By this stage, the bucket has overflowed. So in preparation for session 3, in which we'll begin to make plans for tackling the behaviours that you would like to change, I would ask you to think about the bucket model and what might be filling up your child's bucket. I want you to start to observe in the way that we've described and make some notes about the triggers and behaviours that you see. I'd like to stress that this video does not really replace attending an actual PBS course, because when you go there, you're meeting other families. The value of exchanging ideas, networking, sharing your worries cannot be underestimated. These are just a few of the comments parents attending courses have written on the course evaluation form. There are lots of great organisations and websites that you can access. Some will actually offer you help and support. Some provide information which will empower you in dealings with schools and will help you to find services and activities for your children in the local community. I'll finish with some contact details for Family Action's Norfolk and Waveney ASD and ADHD support service. Get in touch with us to book a place on a PBS course, to come to one of our workshops, to drop in for a coffee at one of our drop-in support sessions, or perhaps to ask for some more individual support. And finally, when you close this video, you will find a link to our online customer service questionnaire. It only takes a moment and really helps us to improve our service, and your participation would be much appreciated. I look forward to welcoming you to another session of the Positive Behaviour Strategies course. Thank you.